The night was thick with rain, each droplet hitting the Ford Bronco's windshield with a rhythmic tap that was almost hypnotic. Beanfield gripped the steering wheel with his muscular arms, the dim lights of the truck cutting through the storm as he navigated the slick roads. Maggie, his loyal golden retriever puppy, sat next to him, her fluffy fur slightly damp, looking out the window as the wind howled through the trees. "Feels like we're the only ones out here." Beanfield muttered, his voice barely audible over the wind. Maggie gave a soft, thoughtful whine, her eyes narrowing as if she could sense something was off. "Yeah, I know what you mean. It's too quiet for a night like this." Beanfield frowned, but just as he said it, his headlights illuminated something in the distance, a flash of movement, something odd. Beanfield squinted into the dark, slowing the Bronco. As they got closer, the form came into focus, flailing on the side of the road in the thick, sucking mud. It looked strange. Not a person, but definitely not any kind of animal he recognized. "Hold on, Maggie," Beanfield said, a mix of curiosity and concern rising in his chest. "Let's check this out." He pulled the truck to a stop, and Maggie's ears perked up as she leaned forward, watching intently. Beanfield got out of the Bronco and trudged toward the creature, the rain pouring down around him. When he got close enough, he could see it more clearly, a figure in some sort of weather-beaten lab coat, covered in mud, struggling to rise. The creature made a flailing motion and let out a frustrated grunt. "Hey!" Beanfield shouted over the storm. "Are you all right?" The figure looked up, its face splattered with mud, and blinked, clearly dazed. Then it gave a strange squawk, a mix between a human yell and a duck's quack, and pushed itself up onto its knees. "I'm fine, just a little unbalanced," the figure said, shaking off the rainwater from his lab coat, though it only made him look more ridiculous. Beanfield took a step back. You sound like a duck." "I..." The figure paused, as if considering the absurdity of what he was about to say. "I am Mallard Duckman, the greatest mind of this generation, and I was conducting an experiment on the weather, but things didn't quite go as planned." Beanfield raised an eyebrow. "Weather experiment? Is that what got you stuck in the mud?" "Yes. Well, I was trying to control the weather. You see, I built this incredible machine, and... I'm guessing it exploded?" Beanfield interrupted, looking around for any sign of a wreckage. "Exactly," Mallard Duckman shouted with enthusiasm, his hands flailing wildly, sending splashes of mud everywhere. "Dino Goat was supposed to help, but he ran off. I was left to handle the fallout on my own." He glanced around, half expecting to see the goat. "Makes sense," Beanfield said dryly, nodding toward Mallard's muddy lab coat. "You seem fine, though. Not hurt?" "Not physically," Duckman declared, getting to his feet with an exaggerated flourish. "But my pride, that's a different story. The machine was a masterpiece, but now it's ruined and I'm stuck here in the mud, thanks to Dino Goat's cowardice, of course." Beanfield sighed. "Well, all right then. You need a ride?" Mallard Duckman blinked at him. "A ride? Oh, yes. That would be excellent. Yes. My lair is just a little ways down the road. I'd greatly appreciate it." Without waiting for a reply, he began waddling toward the Bronco, his boots making squelching noises as they slid in the mud. Beanfield shook his head and gestured for Maggie to hop into the back seat. "Let's get him out of here," he said, and they climbed into the truck. The ride was uneventful, except for the occasional quack or loud muttering from Duckman about his ruined experiment. Beanfield drove in silence, listening to the storm and watching the road ahead. Maggie lay quietly in the back, content but alert, as always. Finally, they pulled up to a strange, dimly lit building tucked away in the woods. A sign, barely visible in the rain, read, "Mallard Duckman's Lab. Keep out." "Here we are," Duckman said proudly, though his soaked appearance and dishevelled hair didn't exactly inspire confidence. "My humble abode." Beanfield parked the truck, and they both got out. Duckman waddled toward the door, then stopped suddenly. "I forgot. Dino Goat should be here, watching the lab. He's probably guarding the place from any external threats." They stepped inside, and sure enough, Dino Goat was standing by the door, staring at them with wide, vacant eyes. He didn't move when they entered, simply watching them intently. "Dino Goat!" Mallard Duckman exclaimed, stomping his foot in frustration. "Where were you? I was stuck in the mud, and you just abandoned me." Dino Goat blinked slowly and let out a faint bleat. He then casually turned his head back toward the lab, as if he had no idea what Duckman was talking about. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Duckman continued, now shaking his fist at the goat. "I was doing science! Science!" Dino Goat chewed on a piece of straw and bleated again, uninterested in the tirade. Beanfield couldn't help but laugh. "Sounds like you're not the only one who's had a rough night," he said, smirking at Mallard. "So, you need a hand fixing all this?" Duckman took a deep breath, visibly calming himself, though his feathers still looked slightly ruffled. "It's going to take time, but yes, I'll need help rebuilding my machine. And maybe next time, Dino Goat will actually stay and help." Maggie barked from the door, and Beanfield glanced back at her. "I think she agrees." Duckman finally grinned, despite himself. "I'll take it as a sign that maybe you'll be a good ally in the future. We might even work together on a few more experiments. Weather control, world domination, you know, the usual." "Sounds like fun," Beanfield said, smiling. "But for now, how about I just get out of this storm?" "Of course. Welcome to my lair, my new friend," Duckman said grandly. "Let's get you dry. You've earned it." As Duckman turned toward his lab, Dino Goat followed at his own pace, still chewing on his straw. Beanfield and Maggie exchanged a look, and they both knew that this was only the beginning of a strange new chapter in their lives.